purposes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today's lecture is part of our guest lecture series, Ukrainian Voices, Academic Freedom in a Changing World. This series of guest lectures is organized within the Erasmus Plus project, promoting academic freedom in Ukraine. The main goal of the Free Act project is to support Ukrainian higher education during the war using the resources we have. The main goal of the Free Act project is to help them to mitigate negative impact of the war, and this project is coordinated by University of Graz. The lecture series is hosted by Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznan and University of Graz. And the lecture series is dedicated to different fields related to academic freedom, democratic transformation, and of course, ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine. And through this initiative, we aim to support Ukrainian researchers in building closer links with the European academic community and to present their work to wider audience. If you want to learn more about these projects, please visit our project website and pages in social medias. Let me quickly explain how we will organize today's meeting. We will begin with a presentation, which will take about 40 minutes. And after the presentation, we will have a discussion and Q&A session. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Kateryna Nesterova. Kateryna Nesterova is the head of the Department of Economics and International Economic Relations at the International University in Odessa. And today's lecture focuses on the circular economy and its role in Ukraine's sustainable development. It examines current environmental and economic challenges, the low level of waste recycling, and impact of industry. The lecture also looks at how EU policies and national strategies support the transition toward recycling, as well as remaining challenges for green growth. So let me now give the floor to Kateryna, please.
Thank you very much. So thank you for joining us today, and I'm truly grateful for this possibility to share some basic ideas about circularity, about circular model, especially in Ukraine. Unfortunately, Odessa has once again suffered from Russia attack, and for the fourth day in a row, we are without electricity and heating, but I think it would be easier to postpone everything and focus only on the urgent basics. But despite the conditions, I'm glad that we are together today, and I invite you to treat this lecture as a small but real step to the future we want to create. The first slide, please, Magdalena. Thank you for assisting me in that. So the plan of our lecture will be the following one. So the first is, what is circular economy? We will talk about what does it mean, the circular model. The second one, circular economy and sustainable development goals. And the third one, European Union as a policy benchmark. And the fourth, Ukraine, current state and the policy window. And some questions and answers questions. Okay, thank you. The next slide. So in the mid-20th century, the global scientific community concluded that economic growth built on a linear industrial model faced inherent limits, as the negative consequences of the scientific and technological revolution became increasingly evident. Researchers and policymakers began to seek alternative approaches. On this slide, you could see two real pictures. So on my left side, you could see the problem with the garbage on the seashores of Odessa. And the second picture, you could see that in Ukraine, we have lots of illegal dumps. And this is the example of one of those dumps in Ukraine. So what I mean when I'm talking about some events that's like do the importance of inviting something new, not only the linear model. So the Great Smoke of London and sure the disaster such as Chernobyl, and also we are talking about the pandemic COVID-19 and something like that that made clear how vulnerable linear systems are, and also price volatility and interruptions also made their effects, and the policymakers and the researchers, they tried to find something new, how to live in such a world. Together, these events strengthened environmental regulation and international cooperation while accelerating interest in models that reduce waste and dependence on virgin materials, setting the stage for today's rising focus on the circular economy. The next slide, please. Here you could see urban war debris. So as you understand, the war in Ukraine also made lots of illegal dumps. And the problem of the war is that the war debris creates massive mixed waste streams, rubbles, metals, damaged vehicles, and also fractions different. So it requires safe sorting and recovery. And in Ukraine, this debris is not just a logistical burden, but an environmental risk. And collapsed building can contain asbestos, lead-based paints and plastics and contaminated dust and many bad materials that affect seriously the human beings and everyone's all over the world. So if debris is dumped unsafely or crushed without controls, fine particulate pollution spreads through neighborhoods. Storm water carries contaminates into rivers, and workers and residents face direct exposure. So it should be resoluted someone by the international society and by Ukrainian society, the problem with this debris also. So the next slide, please. Okay, so now I propose you to do a short test. What is your association with the sustainable development and with the circular model? So Magdalena, could you copy this link to the participants and send in the chat? If it will be harder, we could just go to the next slide. Okay, so I think that you could just we are not lots of participants, so I think that we could discuss it lively. So what is your association with the circularity? Just one word. Do we have some volunteers to answer?
Like you mean in general circular? So for my association would be like reuse.
Okay.
Purposefully, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So just one word. So reuse. Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other ideas?
Reconstruction.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So, and the last one.
Recycling.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So the next slide. Why I asked you to tell me only one word, because the circular economy is often related with the model of 3R: repair, reuse, and recycling. But also, circular economy cuts demand for virgin materials, tackling one of the biggest sources of emissions upstream. And also, you could see on this slide a circular system as a model where materials do not become waste and nature is regenerated. So products and materials stay in use through maintenance, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacture, recycling, and composting. And this means designing goods and buildings so they last longer, they can be repaired easily, and I would say that we could start a very complex model from the designing of the goods and from the designing of such resources. And for many products, the biggest climate impact happens before use, when we extract resources and turn them into materials. So these are highly energy intensive steps, from mining, then transport, then refining, and plus processes emissions in materials like some building materials. And for example, UNEP's International Resource Panel estimate extraction and processing account for over 60% of planet warming emissions. And that's why circular economy is just not only about waste, it's about the whole model of a circular system. It's about avoiding virgin production by keeping products and materials in use longer. So less virgin inputs means less upstream energy use and fewer emissions at the source. So the next slide, please. Just as important, a circular economy aims to reduce the extraction of virgin materials and lower pollution by keeping harmful substances out of loops and returning safe biological nutrients to the soil. Organic waste can be composted or used for biogas, while industrial byproducts can become inputs for other processes, cutting emissions and pressure on ecosystems. When combined with renewable energy and nature restoration, cleaner water, for example, healthier soils, greener cities, circular strategies strengthens resilience, and so communities and economies can withstand shocks, rebuild faster after crisis, and grow within environmental limits. So on this slide, you could see some basic principle and strategies of the circular economy. So first, circular economy aims to eliminate waste and pollution at the design stage, so at the first stage of every economic process. And second, it focuses on circulating products and materials to keep their value as high as possible. For example, making products durable and repairable, then prioritizing repair, reuse, sharing, refurbishment, and remanufacturing before relying on recycling. And the third, circular economy seeks to regenerate nature by shifting to renewable energy and restoring natural systems, especially through nutrient cycling like composting. And overall, the slide highlights practical circular economy strategies: repair, reuse, sharing or product as a service, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and high-quality recycling and composting. Thank you. The next one. Sorry. Magdalena, please, the next one. Okay, great. So on this slide, you could see the relations between the circular economy model and the sustainable development goals. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, this is the key message of the international community to all of us to reach some key elements of our development. And the key message is that circular economy directly supports CDG number 12, responsible consumption and production, by reducing waste and pollution across the entire production consumption chain. And it also accelerates progress on other goals. For example, CDG number 9, through eco-innovation, cleaner production, and circular infrastructure. CDG number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And CDG number 13, climate action, by lowering greenhouse gas emissions through high resource efficiency and longer product lifetimes. So the next one, please. Okay, on this slide, you could see why the circular economy matters for sustainable development by highlighting its triple value. Environmentally, circular economy reduces waste, pollution, and the need for virgin material extraction. Economically, it increases resources, productivity, and drives innovation and new business models. Socially, it can create local jobs in repair and reuse and improve services and support safer communities, while strengthening resilience by reducing dependence on volatile raw material supply chains. And this connects directly to the value retention later on the right. The highest impact comes from keeping products at their highest value. Reuse, resell first, then refurbish, remanufacture, and only then recycle, with landfill as the option to avoid. And this matters even more because the world is moving in the opposite direction. So let's look at the index of global circularity. And this index shows us that from 2018 to 2023, the global index of circularity dropped, and the percentage of decrease is about 21%. So it's a very negative aspect of the international policy about the circularity and about the sustainable development of the whole international society. So Magdalena, the next slide, please. Thank you once again. So let's talk a little bit about how to measure the progress and what are the circular economy indicators. So first of all, those indicators should be clear, trackable, and on the left, this slide summarizes key measurement areas. Material use, for example, material footprint and domestic material consumption, waste outcomes, prevention, separate collection and recycling rates, secondary raw materials, the share of recycled inputs in the economy, and competitiveness, eco-innovation, green jobs, and circular investment. And on the right, it connects these metrics to the European Union monitoring framework, which groups indicators into 5 pillars: production and consumption, waste management, secondary raw materials, competitiveness and innovation, and global sustainability and resilience. So this main message is that circularity is not just a single number. So progress needs a dashboard that captures different economic level of development, and that's why we could say that there is a great gap between the different key indicators in the different countries of the European Union. For example, if we will take the Belgium, it will be more than 20%, and if we will take the France, it will be 19%. So the difference is also in different countries. And sector-specific indicators can reveal gaps even when overall circularity improves. For example, e-waste collection rate was more than 40% in 2022 and still far below the targets of 65% that was made by the European Union. Okay, so we continue with the question about the European Union as a policy benchmark, and it was adopted the Circular Economy Action Plan by the European Union, and this plan prioritizes action along a few key value chains: electronics, batteries and vehicles, packaging, plastics, textiles, constructions and buildings, and food, water and nutrients, because these sectors drive the largest material use and environmental impact. Let's look at the example in construction. The European Union set a goal of 70% recycling, recovery of construction and demolition waste. Yet in most countries, the rate is only around 50%, showing a persistent implementation gap. And that's why the Circular Economy Action Plan combines tools like product rules, green public procurement, and secondary material markets to run targets into real demand and high performance on the ground. So the next one. So also, if we're talking about the relations of the European benchmark to Ukraine's current starting point and its policy window for circular economy reforms, the policy foundation is the law of Ukraine on waste management, which entered into force on July 9, 2023, and moves Ukraine closer to the European Union-style governance, waste hierarchy, planning, permitting, accountability, while creating the legal basis for tools like separate collection and extended producer responsibility. The why now argument is backed by hard numbers. Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction needs are estimated more than 500 billion of United States dollars, and it was made in 2024. And debris clearance management alone is only 13 billion of United States dollar, making circular approaches in construction materials and waste systems economically strategic, not optional. At the same time, the baseline shows why reform is urgent for Ukraine. In 2019, Ukraine generated more than 11 million tons of household waste. It was about 200 kilo per person, while official figures cited in National Strategy Materials Report very low recycling, less than 1%, and 1.5% incineration, with the rest largely disposed in landfills and dumps. And I have already said that we have more than 33,000 of illegal dumps in Ukraine. Also, we have in Ukraine National Waste Management Plan that was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers till the 2033, and it's a practical roadmap for turning circular economy principles into institutions and infrastructure, system building, regional planning, clear municipal operator roles, investment pipeline, better outcomes, prevention and reuse, separate collection and recycling, less landfill, and better bio-waste treatment, and alignment with the European Union path. Regulatory approximation, markets for secondary raw materials, support for circular business models, and so on. It also signals a shift from ad hoc waste handling to a planned and measurable transition, defining responsibilities across levels of government, standardizing permitting and reporting, and building the infrastructure needed for separate collection, sorting, and treatment. In other words, this plan is meant to create the operating system for circularity so that reuse and recycling can scale, secondary materials can become reliable inputs for industry, and landfilling gradually becomes the last resort rather than the default. Okay, so the next slide, please. Also, when we are talking about this planning made by Ukraine, we need to tell that there are some areas where circular economy measures can deliver visible results, and it could be made more, I would say, quickly and more efficient in some areas in Ukraine. First of all, it's about reconstruction materials, packaging and plastics, bio-waste and electronics and batteries. And the urgency is clear because recent recovery assessments estimate only almost about 13 billion of United States dollars for debris clearance and management alone in Ukraine. So sorting different waste, reusing components, and using recycled aggregates can reduce costs and pressure on landfills. Even in the European Union, based policy shows the challenge because the targets, indicators, not achieved by all the countries. And also we were talking about that there is a big gap between the countries. And for example, if we're talking about the packaging and plastics, some activities are options and are critical because only 9% of plastic waste is ultimately recycled. For bio-waste, separate collection plus composting and other plastic things, because the world wasted more than 1 billion tons of food in 2022, about 19% of food available for consumers. And for electronic and batteries, repair, refurbishment, and take-back schemes are essential, because even the European Union collected only 40% of electronic waste in 2022, below the 65% target, showing how hard this stream is without strong system and strong support of the government. Okay, so the next slide, please. On this slide, you could see different frames of the implementation of the circular economy in Ukraine as the system problem rather than a single policy or single technology gap. And the central point is that circularity depends on the coordinated change in material flows, institutions, and market signals. So a weakness in any one element tends to cascade through the whole system. Could you go, please, to the next slide? Thank you. So on this slide, I tried to summarize all main challenges of implementing the circular economy in Ukraine. And in Ukraine, the war has intensified this interdependence by simultaneously increasing material pressures, especially mixed debris, and compressing decision-making horizons during the construction, which often favors speed and short-term functionality over design choices that preserve value in materials over time. So the first one is sure the war and its impacts. The second one, limited infrastructure. Unfortunately, we do not have enough fabrics for sorting, recycling, composing different types of garbage. And also the problem is with the logistics. The second one that I tried to highlight is the policy implementation gap, because laws are advancing, but enforcement capacity is very low, and the local execution is also very, very poor, unfortunately. The fourth one, weak economic incentives, low landfill costs, limited green finance, and high upfront possibilities, financial possibilities for circular technologies and for business models. Data and traceability deficit, lack of reliable waste material flow data, standards, and quality certification for secondary raw materials. Number 6, low market demand for secondary materials. Inconsistent quality, limited buyer confidence, and few long-term offtake contracts. And the last one, skills and awareness. We do not have enough trained staff, not only for recycling, but also we do not have enough different educational program, because it's also about the behavior of the consumers, because they should be familiar with the importance of recycling, with the importance to divide the garbage, to share the garbage, and so on. So a little bit later we will talk a little bit about the importance of the education in that case. So a concrete illustration is construction and demolition waste. Circular construction is most effective when demolition is selective and materials are separated and quality is verified so that secondary aggregates, metals, and reusable components can re-enter supply chains. And under emergency conditions, debris is frequently mixed, transport and treatment routes are disrupted, and the opportunity for high quality recovery is lost early in the process. So this connects directly the infrastructure problem and reverse logistics constraints. Without reliable collection, sorting, recycling, composting, and refurbishment capacity, even well-intentioned actors, even some business models implemented in our economic system can't consistently keep materials in use and can't lead to the whole implementation of the circular economy model. At the same time, regulatory progress can remain on paper if enforcement capacity, secondary legislation, and local implementation are uneven, and implementation gap that undermines trust and discourages long-term investment. And from an economic perspective, circular transitions are especially sensitive to incentives. If landfilling remains relatively cheap, while circular technology and business models sure that they are they price more. So it means that high upfront capital expenditure and face limited access to green finance, and the linear option will remain the default choice for many firms and for many local authorities also. And the market side is equally critical. So even when recycling occurs, demand for secondary materials may remain weak if quality is inconsistent and buyers lack confidence or long-term contracting mechanism which prevents scaling. So these barriers are reinforced by deficits in data, in traceability, and without credible information on material composition, flows, standards, and certification, it is difficult to plan infrastructure, price risk, or integrate secondary raw materials into procurement. And finally, the slide emphasizes human capital. So circular economy is a competence-intensive model that requires trained staff, inspectors, engineers, and managers, as well as broader public and business awareness that turns circular practices into routine behavior rather than isolated pilot projects. So Magdalena, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, and the last slide that I would like to share with you will be about the international competition. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the importance of education, because as I have said, the education of be responsible for our common future is very important when we are talking about the implementation of the circular economy. And the behavior is a big problem. The responsible behavior is a big problem for Ukrainian citizens because they are not familiar with that. And it is essential to state that the education is not a supporting factor for the circular economy, but it is one of its enabling infrastructures. And circularity requires a shift from linear throughput thinking to life cycle and systems thinking. and designing products for durability and disassembly, organizing reverse supply chains, evaluating trade-offs with life cycle logic, and applying standards that make secondary materials technically credible. And education provides the conceptual language, analytical tools, and professional skills that allow policies and investments to translate into functioning practice. And it also shapes norms when students learn to treat materials as assets rather than waste. They carry that mindset into engineering and business and public administration and everyday consumption and so on. In Ukraine, we do not have enough projects for students in that way. And this is the example of such an international competitions that is held by the University of Illinois. And this competition is called Reimagine Our Future. And this competition is for undergraduate students. And the students of the International Humanitarian University could take part in it because we are the side of the we are the member of the organizing committee, and this competition could give the prizes, and the whole sum of the prizes is more than $8,000. And also I invite the students from Poland to take part in that competition, because every year we could see very interesting ideas made by students that are presented on this competition. And different teams in that competition develop solutions aligned with the sustainability challenges and communicate them to a broader audience. So it could be like a very important step to solve the problem of the behavior of the citizens, to make them more responsible to our environmental problems related with the sustainable development goals. And so I would be very happy if your students could take part in that competition. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions? So I'm happy to discuss with you, or maybe some ideas on the circularity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Kateryna. Dear Magdalena, please stop the recording for now.